Happy holidays from the Note News crew. With the roster announcements coming this week for the Four Nations face-off in February, there's some discourse online about whether any Blues players are going to make the cut. Will Jordan Binnington be the number one goalie for Team Canada? Could there even be other names like Robert Thomas or Colton Parayko that make their teams? Could there be any Blues players that enter the conversation down the line in the future? Blues players and prospects. We're going to talk about all that and more today on Note News. Well, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving break, everyone, including you, Alec. I hope you
You too,
ate up.
Dylan.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I hope you ate a lot and watched a lot of football. It was fun. It was fun. Now we've got the rest of the holiday season approaching, including some exciting stuff for the Blues, including the Winter Classic at the end of this month. Should be a lot of fun. But on sort of a wintry note, we're going to talk about the Four Nations Face-Off today, which takes place in February. We're going to break down, give our thoughts on some of the team projections and things like that. But before we do, if you're new to Note News, we'd really appreciate if you would like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow and rate the podcast wherever you listen, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod, where we post a lot of other great content and material, funny stuff, cool stuff, all kinds of stuff over there. So we'd appreciate a follow. And then if we ever have announcements, special guests, things like that, that's the best way to follow along and hear about that stuff, including one update that we have. We're hoping this time that it's for real, that we're going to start doing live streams sometime later this week. It's the week of Monday, December 2nd, as we record today. So hoping to do it later this week, probably sometime towards the end of the week. So the best way to find out about when exactly that will be is to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at No News Pod, as I said. And we'll post updates there as they come, including what day and time we end up identifying for our live stream. This is like a great way if you're really into Blues hockey and are enjoying our content to really engage with us in the middle of the episode and ask us questions. We might throw a question here and there to the viewers and stuff like that. So excited to hopefully get it off the ground. We're sorry about the delay for that. So really, this is sort of like the next chapter of Note News and something we're really looking forward to doing. So we appreciate everyone that is excited about that. Well, why don't we go ahead and talk some Four Nations Face-Off. So for those that may not know, the Four Nations Face-Off is going to be taking place during this season in lieu of an All-Star game. So there will be no All-Star game for the NHL this season, but there will be a Four Nations Face-Off is what they're calling it. It'll be held from February 12th to February 20th, right before my birthday. So I'll get some Four Nations best on best hockey for my birthday, so that'll be fun. It'll be in Montreal and Boston, and there's going to be teams of NHL players from Finland, Sweden, Canada, and the United States. It'll be sort of a round-robin tournament. They'll sort of all play each other, and then the two teams with the best records after that sort of like group stage will face off, and that'll be like the final. It's really exciting because this is going to be the first best-on-best tournament since the World Cup of Hockey in 2016 in Toronto, which is, it's been a while. It's kind of crazy. And it's sort of like a ramp up to the upcoming Winter Olympics in 2026, which will take place in Italy. And this is a great chance to get a look at some players that might factor into their nation's roster for these four teams specifically. Alec, I've been talking pretty much for 4.5 minutes here. Are you excited about the Four Nations Face-Off? I want to hear your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing is, like you said, that this is the first time to see like best on best in the world hockey competition, which, the NHL is kind of the best league in the world, attracts the best talent, but this is where you get to see them play with the best teams and create really super teams. It does kind of it's a little unfortunate that it's only, four nations versus like
Hmm.
seeing what potentially like a Czech team would look like. I think that's a roster I'd be very interested in discussing and talking about. And of course, if perhaps geopolitics were different, a Russian team as well. But at
Hmm.
least what we're getting is definitely a step up from the Olympics of the past, where it was the sort of best young players, which is fun. Don't get me wrong. Do
Hmm.
enjoy and love watching a bunch of like 18, 19-year-olds beat each other up for the sake of glory for their country. But I mean, this is kind of what you dream about, in well, let's hope you, but what I dream about, at night or in the shower or whatever, of what just truly the best on the best would look like. So very excited to watch this play out, and the roster's at least potential is off the charts. I mean, it's like it's got me as a hockey fan just salivating over it.
It's going to be awesome. Like as you said, there's going to be some notable names missing because it doesn't include everyone. Like you said, that Czech team would be really cool to see. I think. Yeah, like a lot of Russian players that won't get to compete in a tournament like this. As you said, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, like names like Kaprizov or um, even like Leon Draisaitl, like we won't get to see. Um,
Hmm.
but still super exciting because it is like four, I mean, pretty much all star teams, essentially, like four super teams kind of going at it. So it'll still be exciting, even though there'll be some notable names missing. But yeah, as you said, super exciting and just like the first time in a long time that we've gotten to see something like this, and is really hopefully going to get people super excited about the Winter Olympics coming up because that'll be the real deal, and we'll hopefully get to see some of these other teams and get a lot more representation from the rest of the NHL in the Olympics. But for now, this is what we got, and it's looking to be pretty sweet. Um, so that'll be awesome. So why don't we start our sort of discussion with like general thoughts on these four teams. For our discussion today, we're mostly going to be going off of roster projections that were um, posted by Daily Faceoff. So you can go to dailyfaceoff.com and find their like final Four Nations Faceoff roster projections. And for those of you that may not know, the rosters will be unveiled this week. So they're supposed to be finalized today as we record, Monday, December 2nd, but they won't be unveiled until later this week. So while we have a little bit of time, you know, before that happens, we're gonna do some speculation, right? Maybe get some tinfoil hat stuff and see what we can work out. See how many Blues players we could fit into this tournament, or project to be um, in a tournament down the line, something like that. So um, Finland and Sweden's rosters will be announced on December 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and Canada and U.S. their rosters will be announced at 6:30 p.m. on December 4th. So we got a couple days here. Um, but like I said, in the meantime, we're just gonna speculate. So it'll be fun. Alec, big question: who do you like the most? Who's your pick to do the whole thing to win it all? Who do you think is really the team to beat for this tournament?
I mean, I think I mean, each team is definitely full of talent, and definitely could win it. Like the level of competition that can come from each of these lines. Truly, I think any team could win it. Even in my opinion, I think the least exciting roster, Team Finland. I still think there's a decent chance where uh, they can win it all. I think they're not the favorites for a reason, but I personally, and it seems that this is a bit of a hot take, I really like Team Sweden. I really think Sweden has everything you'd want and is such a solidly built team on top of just having absurd talent. Man, it's hard not to just like list off the names that are on these projected rosters because it really is just the best hockey players. God, this is going to be so fun. But I like Sweden's center depth or center core
Mhm.
because I like their defensive ability as much, if not better, than all the other teams. I think that on top of their stellar defensive line will give them a great defensive backbone. And obviously, these teams can score goals because I just can't stop talking about how good they look. My goodness. But I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on Sweden. Also with Linus Olmark backing them in net. He's had a down year from his past Vesna winning season, but this is a Vesna winning goalie.
Mhm.
So I still like the talent there. Also, you've got Gustafsson and Markstrom who've had great stretches in their careers. Um, yeah, I'm Sweden has caught my attention for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot to like about all of these teams. We don't have to list the whole roster, but each team has sort of announced six players that will make the roster, so we can at least start there. For Team Sweden, those players are Philip Forsberg, William Nylander, Mika Zibanejad, Victor Hedman, Gustav Forsling, and Eric Carlson. As you said, that group up top, specifically the forward group, does look to be pretty sweet. I mean, even the defense group, right? Victor Hedman, Gustav Forsling, and Eric Carlson. On top of that, you've got names like Rasmus Dahlin, Rasmus Anderson, guys like that. That Team Sweden does look pretty good. I will agree with you. And they haven't sort of announced who their tendies will be, but Olmark, Markstrom, and Gustafsson look to be a pretty solid trio. Teams will get three goalies. And while I don't think any of those three are particular standout number ones, I think the depth is pretty solid, and you're going to get a solid player with any of those three. So
I think Olmark has the potential to play like it. We've seen it before
sure,
from him,
sure, yeah, like you
and
said,
more
former Vezina
recently.
winner, right? Um, I might be like a major homer here, uh, but I think Team USA is the team to beat. We can start the USA chants now. We can play Star Spangled Banner. Go ahead and do it. But I just think they're so skilled in the forward group, and you're also getting a lot of, I mean, pretty much everything you need out of a forward group with what they've got. And then among like on defensemen, they've got some elite players, and then they're just elite in goal as well. I'll start with their six players that are already locked in: Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, and Adam Fox. So those first three forwards, second three defensemen. Um, I mean, Austin Matthews, don't really need to get into how amazing he is, but I mean, on both sides of the puck. And then you've got the Kachuk brothers. Matthew already a lock. Brady is probably going to factor in as well. St. Louis natives, right? So I'd love to see that from uh, that representation there, which is pretty cool. But I mean, gritty players like that, super exciting. And then skill players like Austin Matthews again, Jack Hughes, maybe even Tage Thompson could work his way in. So I think that forward group is elite. And then you can say the same thing about the defense core with Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox, um, arguably two of the top three defensemen in the NHL, beyond Cale Makar. And so having them both both on the ice for you, I think, is a huge difference maker. Along with people like Charlie McAvoy again, who is already a lock. Probably even Brock Faber will factor in. He's a young guy, obviously a little bit bitter for a Blues fan to see Brock Faber doing so well, but he looks to be someone that'll be a factor for Team USA for a while. Um, but then
Yeah.
beyond the skaters, you look at the goaltenders. I mean, they've got Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, and Jeremy Swayman to choose from. None of those three are locked. There hasn't been a decision, but those look to be the three that they'll go to. Um, they probably won't even need all three if they even need anyone beyond Hellebuck, because he's just continues to be one of the best goalies in the world, if not the best goalie in the world this season. And then Jake Ottinger providing really, really solid, depth at that number 2 spot. Jeremy Swayman not having a fantastic year this year, but still a good goalie and performed well in the playoffs last season when the lights were bright for the most part. So I just think, like I said, USA is the team to beat. I mean, I think forwards, defensemen, and goal, you can't really find a weakness with this team, and I really think it's the best team in this tournament.
How
Anything else there?
quickly we moved on from the age of Canadian goaltending being the best in the world to now United States goaltending being the best in the world. And honestly, like I mean, as a kid growing up, obviously I didn't have the most correct thoughts about the future, but I really never thought that I would see such like a golden age of U.S. goaltending. So that is really, really phenomenal. I also do think it's interesting that both of us chose against the betting favorite. Not saying anything towards, what we are endorsing or whatever. Play responsibly, do whatever you feel comfortable. But Canada is favored by sportsbooks to win the tournament, and so they seem like the favorite to do so. And I think there's plenty of discussion to be had there. I mean, their roster is just unbelievable with like the best talent in the league right now, and also some of the best talent the league has ever seen in McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Cale Makar. We could go on and on about just naming names on these rosters. But I guess Cale Makar hasn't been confirmed, but he's guess what? He's going to be on the team. You heard it here first, I guess.
Hot take.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that we both went against chalk a little bit. I think US is pretty close in most sports books to Canada's odds, but so I don't know. I'm taking my underdog Swedes, who, by the way, never ever lose the drip competition in international events. Sweden's sweaters are always on point. They look so good, and the ones that were like announced or leaked for this year look just like the classic yellow and 3 crowns. But oh my gosh, I'm such a sucker for the Swedish look.
I really do like the Swedish look as well. I think it's clean, and as you said,
clean.
It's just drippy. If anyone wants to see the jerseys for these 4 teams, they have been announced, and they all look pretty cool, gotta say. But yeah, I do like that. On the Canada note, for their players that have already been announced, Connor McDavid, a real shocker. Nathan McKinnon, another real shocker. Braden Point, Sidney Crosby, and Brad Marchand. This article I don't think shows who the 6th person is, so I'm not sure who it is. But I mean, those 5 are all forwards. So, like you said, Cale Makar is definitely going to make the team. We're going to talk about their situation in goal in a little bit. But as you said, this golden age of USA goaltending, I think, really speaks to the sort of development efforts that Team USA and USA Hockey have really done on the goaltending front, engaging with young players, like goalie development camps, things like that. Really trying to improve the state of goaltending in the United States. It's been an intentional effort, and one that is coming to fruition now with probably the best goaltending in this tournament. But as you said, I mean, it is a little bit, it's not so great on the Team Canada side. It's like not the days of Carey Price and Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh. I mean, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But
I think also I just want to quickly go over for those of you playing at home who somehow haven't seen the announcement for Team Finland, the only one we haven't announced. Yeah. They have confirmed Alexander Barkov, Mikko Rantanen, Sebastian Aho, Miro Heiskanen, Asa Lindell, and Jussi Saros as their 6 confirmed players in. So out of those lists, if you want to drop your thoughts with either the confirmed players or who we speculate and are likely to make the team too. What you think? Let us know.
Yeah. Also, I just found out or just found that Cale Makar is the other confirmed.
Oh, he is confirmed. Okay.
He's already confirmed. So the article
Wow.
didn't the article we
I'm
were
blown
reading
away
didn't show that.
personally.
I know, shocker. I mean, why would I don't know.
The best
Anyways,
defenseman in the world is going to be in the tournament. Wow.
who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Not me.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So we've sort of broken down the players that are already confirmed for each of these four teams. Alec, do you think there's like any names that we've mentioned already, or that you're seeing um, on these projections that you're thinking are a little questionable?
There's certainly some that are could be debated. I think the Canadian defenseman discussion seems to be one of the more hotly contested ones, especially like on Twitter X. And
Yeah,
I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I do think Petrangelo, Morrissey, and probably Bouchard are all but locks. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Otherwise, I guess I am interested to see how there is a wealth of forward depth for the United States to choose from as well. So I'm interested to see who they pick for the bottom lines and specifically the last line. I mean, I think every team is going to want their guys there because there's just so many solid depth options. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of cases to be made for a lot of players. So, like for example, this one we're looking at has Jake Gensel and Vincent Trocheck, and I'm not sure that they will be on the roster. So it's interesting to think about, and I think there's just a lot of players that deserve a spot. So I'm curious to see who gets it.
definitely. And I think a lot of the discourse has to do with some of those lower lines and pairs and who the last name in will be. Um, and so it can get interesting on that note. But I mean, really being a best on best tournament, it is like it's on a lot of notes. It is not much of a discussion. Like, I mean, big names like the ones that have already been confirmed, of course, but um, I think it can be more interesting on those lower lines. I do want to say I think it'd be really cool if Clayton Keller was able to get in. He obviously plays for Utah Hockey Club, but he's another St. Louis native, um, and he's been sort of left off a lot of projections for Team USA. I think it'd be really cool to see him sneak in. A lot of people have someone like Tage Thompson in there, Matt Boldy, as you said, Jake Gensel. So I think he could maybe sneak into to a lower line or something like that, which I think would be really cool to have a little more St. Louis representation. Which with the Kachuk brothers and him, that might be like the most represented city, um, at least in the U.S. and probably um, on all four of these teams, which I think would be pretty cool. But that's neither here nor there. We want to talk about Blues players that could factor into this and factor into the discussion here. And really, for this upcoming Four Nations face-off, it looks like the only shot for a Blues player to make a roster is going to be on Team Canada, which, again, as you said, according to the odds, is the betting favorite and is definitely a stacked team. So it's going to be slim, or it's going to be not slim, but a difficult sort of shot, a long shot. That's what I'm trying to say for skaters to make it. I think Jordan Binnington is a different discussion. We'll get to him last of these players, but I do want to have a discussion about a couple other Blues players, namely being Robert Thomas and Colton Parayko. Why don't we start on the Robert Thomas front? Um, do you think he should be on this list? I'll go down the forward group for Canada according to this projection, just real quick. So top line: Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon. Second line: Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, Mitch Marner. Third: Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby, Sam Reinhart. Fourth: Alexis Lafreniere, Anthony Cirelli, and Travis Konechny. And then the 13th defenseman being Connor Bedard, or not defenseman, forward. Excuse me. But I mean, that is a a pretty stellar group. Do you think Robert Thomas belongs there?
I'm a Blues fan, so perhaps it'll come as no surprise that I say yes. I think Thomas does belong there. Really, what we're looking at um, is the centers here, and that is kind of the problem. Is that a lot? I guess some of these guys can definitely be kicked out to wings, but McDavid, Crosby, Marchand are all very talented centers. McKinnon, very talented center, though he'll probably play wing. So Thomas could definitely take the spot of some of these players. And yeah, I think he deserves a spot. I think he's played up to his career standard, which is one of the 25 best players in the league. And especially for Canadians, that number's a lot thinner. I don't think he deserves a spot over, well, I mean, everyone who's been confirmed, I will say. But even like outside of that top six, I don't know that there's a lot of other players that I'm saying 100% deserve a spot on this team more than Robert Thomas.
Yeah, the only guy I can
Maybe
think is
maybe
is
with the
like a Sam
exception of
Reinhart.
Mitch Marner,
Okay.
and yeah, Sam Reinhart too. Should definitely be on the team. And Bedard's a tricky discussion too because the
Right.
talent is there, and he's going to be making rosters like this going forward. I mean, I don't even know if the Blackhawks want him to go, but regardless, yeah,
I mean,
outside of
yeah,
those two, I think he deserves a spot over anyone you just named.
sure. Yeah, and I think like one thing to consider is this being as I said, a ramp up for the Olympics in 2026. There might be some like younger guys like Bedard who might not. I mean, he's an elite player, obviously, but might not like ordinarily factor into the discussion. But they probably want to get some looks at him on a best on best in a best on best situation, and then try to get him maybe familiar with sort of Team Canada and uh, the process there. But I think especially on the bottom forward line of Lafreniere, Cirelli, and Konechny, I mean Robert Thomas is as good, if not better, better than all of those guys. And I think, as you said, I think he belongs on this list. I think he has earned his spot here. I think the only knock on him is that he hasn't had like a stellar season so far.
But it's
Um,
because he missed a month of play.
exactly. Yeah, he missed a month of play, and we are still, you know, 2.5 almost months away from this tournament. You got to think that Robbie Thomas is going to get going by then. And I think if they don't put him on there, they're probably going to regret it because I mean he's um, still a young guy at 25 years old and um, is going to be in the discussion for the Winter Olympics. So I don't know. I think he definitely belongs on this list, as you said. So we are in agreement on that point for sure. Um,
I do also think that this list is missing a couple big names too. That like I think Mark Scheifele deserves a spot for sure over a lot of these guys.
mhm.
Hyman's such an interesting player just because like the McDavid effect is so hard for me to make a point with him at all.
Yeah,
And then I mean I think Matt Barzal is an interesting candidate. I always like watching him play, although I don't know he's had some up and down performances in like All-Star games. And maybe I'm just not really a Sorelli guy, but anyways, I would totally put Robert Thomas on this roster, and I don't even think that's like that insane of a decision to make.
yeah. No, I agree. So you heard it here. Note news wants Robert Thomas on the roster. I think Team Canada should want Robert Thomas on the roster.
Seriously,
Um,
he's
like
better.
he's better. I mean, like I know that I know that Marchand is already like a lock. He's already been announced, but like he's 36, and I know he's not a bad player, but like how can you? I don't know.
Legacy pick.
It is definitely a legacy pick, but like you got to think that Robert Thomas, as I said, is going to be a factor in 2026, and I think he deserves his shot here. But why don't we talk about a defenseman here? Because I think this is also an interesting discussion. Do you think Colton Parayko belongs on this list for Team Canada? Going through their defensemen, Kale McCarr obviously being the one who's already locked in, Devin Taves another one, Josh Morrissey, Evan Bouchard, Shea Theodore, Alex Petrangelo, and Mackenzie Weegar as a potential seventh defenseman. Um, Other names that could be a factor are like Noah Dobson, for instance, or I guess yeah, guys like that. But I mean, I think Colton Parayko. I think a case can be made for Colton Parayko to be included in this list. But I want to hear your thoughts before I give mine.
Yeah, like I said, this is a very interesting discussion that I am just curious to see what they decide. Because I think the way I'd set this up is probably with who I would pick myself. And so I think you have to start with Makar and Morrissey. I think those are the two best Canadian defensemen, in my opinion. I think after that, I would say that Dobson and Pietrangelo would be my next two. I think they're still playing. Dobson is so underrated. He is very much like a. I think Bouchard's had a rough like month of play or so, so maybe his stock is down a bit. But Morrissey and Dobson are pretty similar players and just gets no recognition because the Islanders are such a boring team. Um, sorry if we have Islanders fans listening, but welcome to Note News, I guess.
Yeah,
And then Pietrangelo is still playing at a really good number one level. I think he's earned a spot. Outside of that, I think probably it is between, Shea Theodore. As much as I'm not a Devin Taves guy, then again, I'm not a Devin Taves guy. So if I'm making the roster, Devin Taves is not on the list. But I know that that's a really hot take because people seem to love Devin Taves. And I just don't get why I just can't. Uyghur definitely has a talent, and he's having a pretty good season. He's sort of bounced back. Shea Theodore should make the roster. So does Colton Parayko fit in? I think if I'm being really honest and realistic, I don't know that I would put Colton Parayko on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because if this is truly the best defenseman in the world, the best Canadian defenseman in the world,
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point production does kind of have to speak. And
Yeah.
Parayko's having a very good productive season for his standards, but it's still 12 points in 25 games, and he's definitely tapered off after a while. Obviously, we all love the guy. I mean, he's probably the most liked player on the team and is totally deserved to do so. But if I'm being honest about the best players in the world this season, I don't know that Colton Parayko is like a top 6 or 7 Canadian defenseman. I would go Makar, Morrissey, Dobson, Theodore, Pietrangelo, probably Taves, and then I don't know, maybe Drew Doughty, Mackenzie Weegar. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is more of a long shot for Pareko than either Thomas or Bennington, but I think a case can definitely be made for him. As you said, I think his production this year especially has been um, it's been some of his best yet in his career. I think he could be on track to set some career highs in terms of offensive production. So I think he'd be right in that groove come February and would be, a non-zero when it comes to offensive production. But I think what he really provides to Team Canada is this role of a bigger, physical player, which I think they're lacking a little bit. He's 6'6" and 230, something like that. So I think that is something that they could use. Honestly, they've got the mobile, crafty puck moving guys like Cale Makar and Josh Morrissey. I mean, Cale Makar is still a good defender, but I think what they could really benefit from is some of the defensive capabilities and size that Colton Parayko brings. Also, on a tinfoil hat note, Doug Armstrong is the GM for Team Canada, and so I think Army loves Parayko just as much as a lot of the fans do, and so I don't know. I think that familiarity with Parayko and then his performance, in the playoffs as well, could be just enough to maybe push him over the edge. I'm not saying that it's all about who you know, but it could be a little bit about who you know. So
I don't know. It's tinfoil hat to say that Doug Armstrong is Colton Parayko's GM.
I don't know, tinfoil hat. I'm just saying he's the Team Canada GM, and so I
Yeah,
think
right.
I think he might slide his guy in there. I don't know. Could be
Would be fun.
would be
I
fun.
wouldn't be mad. I would not be upset. And like if it happens, I'm definitely going to defend the move.
Sure.
Not saying that it's who I would pick, but I don't think it's a bad pick, I guess.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would be a little surprised, honestly, if Colton Parayko was picked here. Um, but I think he deserves it. And to be clear, I think he's probably making it in as like the seventh defenseman or um, one of those bottom pair guys. But um, overall, it is going to be tight on that note. But the really fun discussion, which we can get into now, is what's going to happen for Team Canada in goal. So there's a lot of debate about who deserves this spot. As Alex said earlier, the sort of golden age of Canadian goaltending is over. If maybe just on hiatus, I'm not sure what the future of Canadian goaltending looks like. It all rests on Joel Hofer, so we'll have to see. But it's like, to get really nerdy here, it's like at the end of Lord of the Rings, right? The age of the elves is over, and it's time for the age of men, and so uh, the age of Canadian goaltending is sort of coming to an end and being replaced by this, as you said, USA goaltending powerhouse. There's a lot of names in this discussion. Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson, Sam Montembeau, Stuart Skinner, another one, and Jordan Binnington is another name in this discussion. And I just cannot see an argument. I cannot see an argument that I have like read or seen and been like, okay, that makes sense a little about Jordan Binnington not deserving the number one spot. I'm not saying that he is like on par with a lot of these other number one goalies for these other teams. I think he can be at times, but I'm not saying he's a Connor Hellebuck or a Yusei Saros or anything like that. Um, but when it comes to the crop of Canadian goaltending, who is better than Jordan Binnington? Who deserves this spot more than Jordan Binnington? I mean,
Talk to him.
like seriously, he's got the track record when it comes to his career. Just became the winningest goaltender in Blues history. He had a fantastic season last year. He's not that far removed from that. His season might not be going so well this year as we've talked about on previous episodes, but he's not that far removed from a fantastic season last year, a 913 save percentage. And I don't know. I cannot see a reason that Jordan Binnington does not belong here. Again, that 2019 run, he went crazy. He went Binner mode, as you said. Give me Binnington and a shot in the playoffs, and just see what happens. Because I think when the lights shine brightest, Jordan Binnington performs. He comes through, and that's who Team Canada is gonna need, and who they're gonna want in the crease for them. I don't know, Alec. I got a little hot and bothered there, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I mean, you fired me up, and I'm not even like
Yeah,
I didn't disagree with you to start out with. Also, I do want to say the real ones know Thanksgiving season is Lord of the Rings season. Um,
true.
but yeah, I mean,
I'm here
this
for it.
is there shouldn't be a debate. There shouldn't be a debate, and it's crazy, and it's a little bit like exasperating because all the discussion debate about roster stuff that I've seen is on Twitter, and Jordan Binnington is Twitter's least favorite player, or X, and I will always push back on that narrative, because yeah, it's crazy that Binnington isn't like the favorite to take this spot. Logan Thompson is having a great season so far in 12 games,
Hmm.
but he's played a good 12 games, I guess. And Aiden Hill is also like, these are all good goalies, but I just don't understand. Like Binnington has the track record. Like you said, he shows up in the big moments. And even like at worst, you could say that all these guys' skill are comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you want the one who has the most career games played by far and who has a Stanley Cup win under his belt? I mean, what are we doing here? Like, I also am going to get fired up about this because I get fired up defending Binnington because the hate on him is just crazy. He has like two normal, like, goalie blow up moments that happen all over the league. Look, you can find examples all over the league in Carolina, in Colorado,
Yeah,
in
look at
Vegas.
Colorado like 2 weeks ago, like
Georgiev
1 week ago.
Georgiev is a true standout example, and yet people don't care. But it happens all the time. Goalies do this.
Yeah.
And sure, Binnington has fire to his game. Don't you want that in a player and in a goaltender, especially when they're fighting for their you-know-what country? Like, I'm also hot and bothered about this because
Talk to him, Alec.
it has to be Binnington. It has to be Binnington. Anything if it gets announced that it is anyone other than Binnington playing in the big game for this team, because I mean they're going to give each
sure
team or each goalie a game, but if it comes down to it that Team Canada makes it more than just or whatever, like yes, Binnington should be in net and he should be in net for the biggest game. However you indicate number one, this is your guy.
Yeah. This is a guy who last season finished 5th in the entire league in goals saved above expected with 16.5. I mean, like
on a team that missed the playoffs.
I mean, we've broken it down before on here, but like he was right up there with Sergei Bobrovsky, the guy that won the Stanley Cup. Admittedly, his playoff run went crazy,
but insane defensive team.
Exactly. Linus Ullmark, he did better than Jacob Markstrom, Freddie Anderson, Igor Shesterkin finished with a lower mark when it comes to goals saved above expected last season. A guy that is widely regarded as one of, if not the best goaltender in the entire league. I mean, just he's one season removed from that, and he's the most established and proven goaltender in this group. I mean, you can make a case on the Stanley Cup note for a guy like Adin Hill, who had a good run when Vegas won the Cup. But Jordan Binnington has continued to shine in the regular season beyond that one Stanley Cup win. He's had some down years, admittedly, but this isn't a particularly impressive group. And Jordan Binnington is the most impressive of this group. He has the resume. We can just go back and forth, like hyping each other up on this, I think probably all night. But I think the point is made that Jordan Binnington deserves this spot because of the track record, because of the ability, the talent. Yeah, I think there isn't a really good point to the contrary, which is what I'll say.
We can go back and forth all night, like you said, but I still got one more point to make because
Sure.
I just can't help myself because it's just insane to me. Binnington, so Logan Thompson, as I said, is having the best statistical season so far. Binnington has played 7 more games and is at an .899 save percentage. So if he doesn't get shelled in his next start, he's going to be at a .900 save percentage, under 3 goals against, and has played twice the career games of both these guys.
Yeah. I mean,
case closed.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, we can move on, but like, as you said, he is coming under fire a lot more than a lot of these elite goaltenders. I think you put him in front of an elite defenseman group that Canada has: Cale Makar, Devin Taves, Josh Morrissey. Whoever ends up in that defenseman group is going to be fantastic. And when Jordan Binnington isn't getting shelled, I mean, the results are there. He has blow up games, sure, everyone does, but I mean, just look at that game against Philadelphia the other night. That amazing save, like, I think that
he had like 4 saves that are like career highlights, and he does this like every week or every other week.
Yeah.
Like, and we just pretend it's normal. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jake Allen was a great goaltender for a long time. Go back to our all-time Blues draft. I think Brian Elliott was a great Blues goaltender for a long time who were really more like solid, never really impressed, but were for their tenure like generally stable goalies, which is an impressive thing to say about goalies. They'd never had this. I mean, Brian Elliott maybe like 1 or 2 seasons had a couple like standout saves, yeah, but like Binnington does this every month, like multiple times. You can do it several times in a week if the cards align. Like Aiden Hill ain't doing that.
No,
and he's done it for years. I gotta stop. I gotta.
All right,
John,
let's move on. Let's move on.
You
Let's
gotta
move
stop
on.
me.
Yeah. Case closed. Point made. Jordan Binnington should be the number one goalie for Team Canada. We'll leave it at that. Just take a deep breath, Alec. Take a deep breath.
I need it.
All right. Why don't we close out the Four Nations talk? We're going to do our news and notes segment in a minute, but why don't we close out a little bit of this best on best Four Nations talk, talking about some young Blues players and prospects that we think maybe could factor into roster discussions like this, not this season, not this time, but in the future, down the line, who in the Blues system, young players or prospects that have yet to reach the NHL, who do we think could factor into these discussions? We'll stick with these 4 teams for now. Actually, no. Well, sorry. we'll include some other teams in this discussion, but for the most part, it will be these 4 teams. I want to start with the big guy, one of the names of the year for the Blues so far, Philip Broberg, who is Swedish. And do you think down the line, Philip Broberg, now granted, it would take some real growth and development in his game, right? But I mean, we've seen him already take those steps this season. He's having a fantastic season. At least he was before the injury. He just came back, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think for him to make this like best on best roster, it would take further strides, further progress, and development into a truly elite player. But I think he's starting to show some signs of that development this season. What do you think? Do you think Philip Broberg ever has a chance of making this roster here?
Well, he definitely does have to continue to make some strides, but I think there's absolutely a path. I'll start. Let's just look at who made it so far. Alex Pietrangelo is 34 who's projected to make it. Alex Pietrangelo is 34 years old.
That's Team Canada.
You are right. I'm looking at the wrong team. Victor
Hedman.
Yeah, there you go. Regardless, I think there's obviously going to be some turnover. Sorry about that. There's obviously going to be some turnover on this roster. Now, Sweden does have a lot more young talent. Anderson, Dahlin are really good young defensemen. But Hedman and Karlsson have been around forever. I mean, Karlsson has just had the storied career of storied careers. And so I think, I don't know how long Gustav Forsling is going to sustain this level of play. He's a really good defenseman right now, but I don't really know that he's built up the goodwill of some of these other guys. I think he just had a really good couple of years in Florida. I'm not saying that he is like a fraud or anything. I just think that, some of these other players are like Hall of Fame talent. I'm not sure that Gustav Forsling is a Hall of Fame talent. So there's some potential spots opening. And so, I think Broberg looked to be profiling as a number 1 defenseman. And if he can grow into that mold, then any number 1 defenseman is going to have a shot at their team's respective roster. Rasmus Dahlin, the aforementioned Alex Pietrangelo. I don't really want to use Cale Makar as a comparison point. Yeah, I know these are Canadians. I'm just saying number 1 defenseman right now. Who made their rosters, their nation's roster. But Bouchard made it, Josh Morrissey made it. So if you're the best defenseman on your team, you're automatically going to get a look, and Broberg's on pace. So I think that's a really good starting point for this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, it would take some of these particularly the older names dropping out. I mean, Hedman and Erik Karlsson are both 34 years old this season, and so you got to think that at least by the next Olympics in 20 30 next Winter Olympics. They're probably not going to be factors in that discussion. They'll be 40 years old by then, so probably not going to happen then. I think again, it would take some of that, and then like we said, it would take some development from Broberg. But I think it could happen. I think it could happen. Maybe at least a bottom four, a lower four pair spot. So that would be cool. What about like let's talk about some Blues prospects that we think maybe could factor in. Um, it's tough to know on this point just because there isn't a whole lot out there about what the team what this team would be. For example, if they were included in a tournament like this, but I want to talk about Adam Jiricek. Could he maybe factor into Team Czechia and their national team down the line? What do you think?
I am still waiting to see a lot from Jiricek,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think I don't mean to entirely, be disappointed
deflect.
about a Blues prospect and player that I want to see play well, but I would say that there's potentially there's a harder path to go there. And then again, it's so hard because he's like 18 or 19 now. I think he's still 18. Um, although, so I think that would be remain to seen. I think it's a little young to say for him, but potentially in the um, Czech team of like 2034 or 2032.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of looking at the elite prospects Team Czechia roster. There's not a lot of NHL level players on this team, at least in the defenseman group. So I think down the line, if he does develop into at least uh, at least a bottom four defenseman, I think he could honestly factor into that discussion. But I mean, with all these guys, it's going to take some development for sure. But um, I think the defenseman group for the Czech Republic is not really a whole lot to write home about. And so I think if he does turn into a top player, he could be a factor. I'll just say that. Um, any other prospects you want to talk about? I mean, obviously with a guy like Dvorsky, it gets more complicated. But and so I don't think we need to go there today. But any other names in the Blues system that you think maybe we could see someday?
I'm actually interested in the future of Team Sweden as well, given the track record of Alex Steen and his just propensity and adoration with Swedish players,
Mhm.
which has led this team to some success. Lindstein and Stenberg, both of our later second round or first round picks from 2023, look to be hits. Look, maybe, I mean, I would say not expecting like superstar level players, but potentially good contributing players. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excitedly would be considering for this list in probably 2032 what Stenberg or Lindstein look like, or who knows, maybe the Blues draft some freak out of Sweden this draft or the next draft that Steen just can't not leave the building without putting in a Blues jersey. So as of right now, I would say Stenberg and Lindstein, but
Yeah,
whoever is to follow as well could fit that mold.
could be cool. Yeah, Blues. The Blues are really kind of turning into this Swedish team in a way, aren't they? Which, as we said, they got drip. So
I like it.
um, one other guy I wanna mention is Jimmy Snuggerud, who has got a lot of time playing for the U.S. like juniors team in USA U20, like at World Juniors games. He's kind of like lit it up in the past couple years. In 2022-23, playing for USA U20, he had 5 goals and 8 assists in only 7 games. And then 23-24 for USA U20 in World Junior play had in 6 games 5 goals again and 3 assists this time. So he's someone that I think maybe could, if he again, with as is the case with all these guys, if he becomes a top player, I think already has the familiarity playing best on best for his age group, and could be someone to watch out for. So that could be cool. Um, let's close out with some news and notes, but before we do, I just want to give the plugs one last time. If you're new to Note News and you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us out a ton here. That's really the best way to support us, along with following and rating the podcast wherever you listen, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod, where we post a lot of other great stuff. So if you want to keep up with us and hear announcements, those are the best ways to do it. Our patented news and notes segment. First of all, congratulations to Jordan Binnington. This is our first time podcasting since he broke the Blues franchise record for wins with 152. Really awesome. He passed his agent, Mike Liut, for the wins title for Blues goalies. So super exciting. And he did it in far fewer games. I would have to pull up the stats on that and how many games he did it in, unless Alec, you have it up. But I mean, fantastic stuff from Jordan Binnington. Really awesome to see that. He did it in less than
Played
300
299 games.
Yeah, so he did it in, I guess that would have been 298.
298, yeah.
Yeah, so congrats to Jordan Binnington. That's awesome. May there be many more.
Mm-hmm.
And may there be, may you show him what's up here in this Four Nations face-off, Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, I think we've expressed to our viewers how much in support we are of Jordan Binnington this episode.
For sure. Just wanted to point that out. Congrats, Benner. Another note, Philip Broberg. Alec, as you wrote in our rundown, he is bro back. He has returned from injury, and so will once again be a consideration on the Blues roster. Hopefully he'll pick back up right where he left off. But all I can say is I'm very glad for the return of my sweet prince. He has yet to really make an impact in his return. He's only played one game. It was the 2-3 overtime loss to Philadelphia. 0 points. He was -1 on the night, but did have 3 shots on goal. So, and he played 28 shifts. So, really a full workload, 24 minutes on the ice and 8 seconds time on ice. So, really just sort of jumped right back into it. But I'm glad that he's back. Do you have anything to note on Philip Broberg's return?
I'm just curious to see how he gets deployed. And also, I'm still on the Philip Broberg for Power Play 1 agenda, and I will not get off that agenda. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I think that would be really awesome. And under the new head coach, Jim Montgomery, this is something I would love to see them try. As you said, and as we've broken down before, it would be really cool to see him get a look at that power play quarterback and really, I don't know, own it and sort of take over that spot. That would be fantastic, thinking long term for the Blues. So fingers crossed on that one. I want to finish up. I think you wanted to finish up actually talking about the upcoming month of hockey for the Blues. So now that it's December, we've got 1 month left in 2024 for Blues hockey. They're going to start with a sort of Canadian road trip. They're going to play away at all these games against the Winnipeg Jets, the Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, and then the Vancouver Canucks. So that'll be sort of a lengthy Canadian road trip. Then they've got San Jose at home before playing Dallas away. Then they host a couple teams that they just played in the Northeast, the New York Rangers and New Jersey Devils at home before a Florida road trip, playing Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers back-to-back. Then they'll go up to Detroit for a game with the Red Wings, at home for Nashville Predators and Buffalo Sabres. And then they'll finish out the month and finish out the year with the NHL Winter Classic against the Chicago Blackhawks at Wrigley Field. Alec, are you going?
I am going actually, and I
Woo!
am super excited about it. Got myself and my family a little early Christmas gift, and hope to be seeing some of you out there. I don't want to overpromise anything, but we'll stay tuned for when that date comes up for some exciting stuff. John, I want to know, what are your thoughts on the jerseys?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's been really mixed
Yeah, for
reception on
sure.
these jerseys. I feel like, and we did a Twitter poll, and I think overwhelmingly it's people didn't like them or they think they're just meh, which is I think honestly the biggest takeaway. I honestly like them. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a clean look. It is simple. There's not like a lot there to look at, but um, if anyone is wondering what we're talking about, just look up like NHL Winter Classic Blues jerseys or something like that. Um, what I really like is um, the fact that it says St. Louis across the chest. Um, it is plain, like I said, uh, but I don't know. I think the font they chose for one is actually kind of cool. It looks clean, and then I just like that blue bar across the middle, and then St. Louis and the font is cool as I said, and I like the cream color, and then it's got some history to it, right?
Hmm.
Do you have the what the origin of this? Do you know what the origin of this
Yeah,
this
it was
jersey
the
is?
St. Louis Stars.
Hmm.
I believe were the origin of the band and the um, St. Louis across the middle. So I believe I have that correct.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
So
so.
um, anyways, so it's just paying some homage to a little bit of St. Louis history there, and I believe I can't cite my sources here, so I apologize for that. But I believe I saw somewhere that these are the first Blues jerseys to not have the blue note on the front.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
it is interesting. I mean, it is. There is something to be said for consistency and like an image and history and stuff like that in keeping the blue note on on the front of the sweater. But I mean, I do like a mix up every once in a while, and I think this one was done well in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I think I for one I do. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if you said your take. Do you like them, or what are your thoughts on these jerseys?
I do really like them. I understand the. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. The St. Louis Flyers. The Stars were a baseball team. The Flyers
Oh
were
yeah,
the original
gosh,
hockey team. St.
yes.
Louis Flyers, not the Stars. Uh, I'm too knowledgeable about St. Louis history. I do like them a lot, and I understand why people are underwhelmed because it is sort of a cleaned up, simple look. But
Hmm.
like you said, I like the blocking of it and the back of it, the
Yeah,
numbers and the lettering on the back, like the text. The back of the jersey is like Gordon. Whoa, golden. It is gorgeous. Who is
yeah.
Gordon? I don't know.
Golden
Um,
and gorgeous became Gordon.
yeah. Anyways, that is
Yeah.
beautiful, and so I can kind of forgive the front for being a little bit bland. I also think it worked really nice with the pants, and I don't know, man. I am just so out on the Blackhawks jersey design. I think their band across the middle just looks so weirdly colored with like it's solid color or like solid color, and then just black and white stripes that just breaks everything up. It looks entirely segmented, not together at all, and I feel like they have four different types of this exact jersey. So like,
Yeah.
what's the point? So I'm definitely taking the Blues in the jersey fight as a totally unbiased fan.
Yeah, I agree. Like with no jersey in Blues history, not having the blue note on the front, um, any sort of mix up is going to look weird, right? It's going to be a little bit jarring. But I think this one was handled well. Um, and I think keeping it simple may have been the way to go if you were going to mix it up like that and not have it featured there in the middle and the front. I think this was a good way to do it. I agree. The back is Gordon. Um,
I'm telling you, just wait till you see them like on ice in the
yeah,
game. It's so clean. Like they're gonna look
yeah.
so good. They're gonna look even better on the ice.
They're gonna wear them with the blue pants, and they're gonna have the blue buckets on. I think it's gonna be a clean look. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. Any other points about the December schedule? on your end, Alec? I think there's some really solid matchups here, particularly this Canadian road trip. Jets, Oilers, Canucks. Those will be tough. Obviously, Stars, Rangers, and Devils will be. I mean, three teams in a row that are looking to be. I'm not sure the Rangers so much anymore, but Stanley Cup contenders. Rangers have been struggling lately, but still a good team overall. Those Florida teams look good. And then I think the end of the month with Detroit, Nashville, Buffalo, and Chicago, that'll be like a nice way to end the year. Um, but it looks to be like a pretty grueling stretch there for Jim Montgomery's early coaching
Yeah.
days for the Blues. There for most of the month. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, real quick, but I mean, this is kind of what I've been setting up in previous episodes for those who followed along. Like I have been saying, NHL standings don't matter until December. Well, it's December, and like you said, we're playing a lot of really good teams. Like this is a hard schedule. This is a really, really hard schedule. On top of that, this is a hard schedule with some pretty big playoff implications. Even just in this road trip, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Vancouver has the wild card edged by a point, but are all right there in the mix for that wild card slash third Pacific slot, sort of jockeying for power. And so those are three very important games. And then the Jets, obviously, a division rival, and um, those are very important games in terms of the Western Conference seeding. Then moving on, we've got tough games against other divisional opponents like the Predators, who just always seem to give us a hard time, and Dallas Stars, who are really good. There's some really good Eastern Conference teams, New York, New Jersey, both Florida teams on back-to-back nights. Like this is a tough, tough schedule, and this is like, to me, this is it is tough, but I'm still kind of excited because like this is the part where I say, here we go. This is what we've been waiting for. Thomas
Mhm.
is back. Broberg is back. Binnington looks to be playing better. Hofer has been playing really well. Like, here we go, Blues fans. This is when the team gets to prove its mettle, and we get to really learn if this is a team that can hang and make a playoff push, or if this just isn't quite the year. I think how they play in December is going to be really important and will pretty much dictate, in my opinion at least, will pretty much dictate kind of how the rest of the season looks. If they're still hovering like losing games right around 500, maybe a little over, but are losing ground in the wild card race,
Mhm.
even then, I don't know that I can say that this team is just hanging around anymore. You really need to start putting up a fight against these good teams and proving your mettle. Otherwise, people are going to continue to not take you seriously. And also, beating the Blackhawks in the Winter Classic will be the perfect cherry on top to us getting back in the wild card race.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. We're going to be here at Note News to cover all of that as it comes, starting hopefully this week, as we said, later on this week with live streams. So be sure to check out all of our channels that we mentioned to hear news about that. So we hope to see you there. Until then, let's go Blues, baby. We'll see you next time on Note News. And let's go
Let's
Blues.
go, Blues.